we come to a close at this convention with a realization that we're going to be talking about at this closing plenary, and that is that the future is happening to us in conservative Judaism right now. We're in the future. And of course, I don't just mean that we have face recognition cell phones and access to knowledge and data that is essentially infinite. No, in this context, when we say that the future is happening to us, we mean something specific. We mean that there has been a break with the past in our movement and in this society, a break that is sometimes jarring and unexpected. There's been a spiritual break with the past in the way that up-and-coming generations relate to religion in general, or how they relate to affiliation or to institutional life. There's been a behavioral break with the past in the way that people activate core values in their worlds and in their communities. And there's been a psychological break with the past in the ways that people form their identities in relationship to community and communal norms and received wisdom. Now, lucky for us, we're Jews, and we're very, very good at breaks with the past. We are essentially a religion that adapts. We've done it lots of times through a couple of millennia, actually. And in light of that, I actually want to share a very famous rabbinic legend that appears in the Gemara, in the Talmud, in Chagiga, the story of the Arba'a shenichnesu lePardes, the four who entered the Pardes. Many of us might be familiar with that story. Four rabbis, Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Ben Abuya, and Rabbi Akiva. Four rabbinic figures who lived during a time of incredible disjuncture with the past, in the years in between the destruction of the Second Temple and the Bar Kokhba revolt, 2,000 years ago. And according to this legend, these four rabbis were supposed to enter into this mysterious Pardes, or orchard, some kind of mystical place where you could come in some way closer to the presence of God than anyone, with the exception of Moses, had come. And before they enter into that Pardes, Rabbi Akiva issues a warning to his colleagues. He says, when you come to the place of pure marble stones, don't say water, water. That's very esoteric warning. Don't worry about that for now. They go into the Pardes, and they come to that place. And the story says that Ben Azai gazed, and he dropped dead. He died there on the spot. Ben Zoma then came, and he gazed, and he went insane. He lost his mind completely. Ben Abuya then came forward, and he gazed. And it says, at that time, he lost his faith in God and became a heretic, and became Acher, the other one, and left. Only Rabbi Akiva, it says, entered in peace and left in peace. Now, whatever that place of pure marble stones is, lots of Kabbalistic theories, we're not going to spend any time on that. Clearly, it was a place that was frightening, terrifying, in fact, a place that shook them to their core, so much that one died, one went insane, and another one walked away. And we can say that in many ways, the conservative movement is in that Pardes right now. As we look into the future, we see a world that in many ways we never would have dreamed we could find ourselves in. We see a Judaism where people aren't engaging in the way that earlier generations were. We see a movement where people aren't necessarily turning to us for guidance and to celebrate the moments of their lives in the way that earlier generations were doing in this country. Yeah, we're in that Pardes, and we have a choice. We can be like Ben Azai, we can become paralyzed with fear and die as a movement, and of course none of us are going to see that happen. We can become Ben Zoma, and we can become torn to shreds and become a disparate collection of many different perspectives that have no coherence. We can be Ben Abuya and simply give up and walk away. Or we can be Rabbi Akiva. Now, how did he do that? That's the question. Well, what we can say is there's something about Rabbi Akiva, isn't there? When you look at all the stories of his life, whether it be as he started as an adult and started his learning from the very beginning, or when he faced his own death, in every one of those circumstances, he had a courage, a fearlessness, and a bold ability to walk into the future, no matter how daunting it seemed. Because he had such an emunah, such a faith in Torah. Such a faith that as long as he had Torah with him, no matter what life could throw at him, nothing was too terrifying to face. Now, it's all too natural when we are now in this moment of looking into the future, of being afraid, of wanting to turn within, of wanting to shut down or become angry and infight or give up. But we can also be Rabbi Akiva and never let fear define us. This is an incredible moment in conservative Judaism today. You see, we get to ask the ultimate questions. What kind of model of a movement do we want to be in the 21st century? We get to ask the questions, do we want to be a fearful movement, a reactive movement, or do we want to be deeply at peace? Because we, like Rabbi Akiva, know that we have Torah. Like Rabbi Akiva, we know that the Torah is an extraordinary technology that we can apply to every single vicissitude of history, even as it changes to become what is needed in this world. We may be called the conservative movement, but this is a moment in history when we need to be anything but conservative, anything but reactive because of fear. Quite the contrary. We get to be a movement that is bold and strong because we know that we are deeply, perhaps more than other movements even in Judaism, we have a unique combination of being so sourced, deeply sourced in texts and in traditions and in the wisdom of our ancestors, and we embrace all of the beautiful things of modernity and the life that we live in, that there is no challenge too vexing for the kind of tools that we have to meet them. I don't care if it's declining affiliation rates. It doesn't matter if it's the intermarriage issue. It doesn't matter if it is our relationship to Israel or new life cycle challenges. We have our halacha, we have our agadata, we have our midrash. We have so many resources that can be taken into this future that is upon us. Imagine with me, if you will, a conservative movement that has entirely shifted its paradigm. A movement that is no longer concerned with its self-preservation as a movement per se, but rather with single-mindedly focusing on how to bring Torah to new generations, even as we continue to bring Torah to existing generations. Imagine with me a conservative Judaism that is leading the world in cutting-edge ways of learning and bringing learning in hitherto unknown forms to our people and to the world. Imagine with me a movement that is turning to our halachic system and our traditional ritual resources to create vastly more diverse communities in our kihilot, ones that include people who have been on the outskirts, people like the LGBT community, people like Jews of color, people, yes, like Jewish people who have fallen in love with somebody who is not Jewish and simply wants to marry them. Imagine with me a conservative movement that is leading the world in new kinds of spiritual practices that perhaps earlier generations never would have thought of, and yet they are deeply sourced in authentic tradition. And imagine with me a movement that speaks from our authentic textual and wisdom core, speaks out about issues of social justice and progress of our society, and leads the world in calling the world to greater justice. Yet we're in that Pardes right now. We are. And we have absolutely nothing to be afraid of. We've got all the tools right here. That's what we've all been exploring over these past few days. It's here, in this room. If there's anything that Pardes, that future demands of us, it's that we be fearlessly authentic to what we really are. Because no matter what unknown lies before us, if we are proceeding from our deepest truth, from our deepest hearts, and from our deepest Torah, not only are we blessed, but the future itself becomes a blessing through us. So let's all take all of the wonderful learning we've been doing on this convention forward into the future. And let's proceed humbly and with joy and in peace into this future. Amen. So, thank you.